Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story is one that will truly make you pause, reflect, and maybe even see the world a little differently. It's about kindness, courage, and how one small act can change everything, not just for one person, but for many. It was a busy Monday morning in the heart of the city. The kind of morning where everyone was rushing, eyes glued to their phones, minds lost in deadlines and responsibilities. Inside a sleek corporate building, employees hurried through glass doors, swiping badges, barely noticing each other. Among them was a woman named Sarah. Sarah wasn't anyone important in the eyes of the company. She worked as a junior administrative assistant, quiet, hardworking, and often overlooked. She had been working there for nearly 3 years, always on time, always polite, always doing more than what was asked of her. But like many people in large corporations, she blended into the background. That morning, however, something unusual caught her attention. Near the reception area stood a young girl, no older than 8. She was sitting on the floor, gently rocking back and forth, her hands covering her ears. Her breathing was uneven, and her eyes darted around the room as if everything was too loud, too bright, too overwhelming. People noticed, but no one stopped. Some whispered. Others simply walked past. Sarah slowed down. She didn't know why, but something about the girl made her stop in her tracks. Maybe it was the fear in her eyes. Maybe it was the way she seemed completely alone in a room full of people. Sarah knelt down slowly, keeping a safe distance. "Hey," she said softly. "It's okay, you're safe." The girl didn't respond. Sarah noticed the signs. She had a cousin with autism, and she recognized the sensory overload almost instantly. The noise, the movement, the bright lights, it was too much for her. Sarah gently took off her scarf and folded it into a soft pad, placing it near the girl. "You can sit here if you want," she said calmly. Still no response, but the girl's rocking slowed just a little. Sarah looked around. The receptionist seemed unsure. Security guards stood nearby but didn't intervene. It was as if everyone was waiting for someone else to act. So Sarah did. She dimmed the nearby light slightly, asked the receptionist to lower the volume of the ringing phones, and quietly guided a few curious onlookers away. Then she sat beside the girl, not too close, just enough to let her know she wasn't alone. Minutes passed. Slowly, the girl began to calm down. Her breathing steadied. Her hands moved away from her ears. She looked at Sarah, just for a second, but it was enough. "Hi," Sarah whispered again, smiling gently. That's when everything changed. A sharp voice cut through the calm. "What is going on here?" It was Mr. Khan, the floor manager. Strict, impatient, and known for having zero tolerance for disruptions. He walked over quickly, his expression already filled with frustration. "Why are you not at your desk?" he demanded. Sarah stood up, trying to explain. "Sir, the child, she was." "I don't care," he interrupted. "This is a workplace, not a daycare." Sarah glanced at the girl, who was starting to show signs of distress again. "Sir, she just needed a moment." "I said enough," he snapped. "You're creating a scene. Get back to work immediately." Sarah hesitated, and in that moment, she made a choice. She didn't move. "Sir," she said quietly but firmly, "she needs help." The manager's face hardened. "Then you're fired." The words echoed through the lobby. Gasps filled the air. Some employees stopped walking. Others stared in shock. Sarah froze. "Pack your things and leave," he continued coldly. "We don't pay you to play hero." Sarah looked down at the girl again. For a brief second, doubt crossed her face, but then she took a deep breath. "Okay," she said softly. She picked up her bag from the nearby desk, her hands trembling slightly. But before leaving, she turned back to the girl one last time. "It's okay," she whispered. "You're going to be all right." And then she walked toward the exit. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't, because someone had been watching the entire time. From the upper floor, standing near the glass railing, was a man in a tailored suit. Calm, observant, and silent. He had seen everything. The girl. The panic. The indifference. The kindness, and the firing. He stepped into the elevator without saying a word. Moments later, the lobby doors opened again. The man walked in. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Employees straightened up. The manager's posture changed. Even the receptionist stood taller, because this wasn't just anyone, this was the CEO. A millionaire, known for his sharp mind and even sharper decisions. He rarely visited this floor, and when he did, it was never without reason that he walked directly toward the girl, and then, he knelt down. The entire room went silent. "Hey," he said softly. The girl looked up at him, and for the first time, she smiled. It was small. Almost unnoticeable. But it was there. The CEO's eyes softened. He looked around slowly, his gaze landing on the manager. "What happened here?" he asked calmly. The manager swallowed. "Sir, it was just a minor disturbance." One of the employees was. "Where is she?" the CEO interrupted. "Sir. The woman who helped her," he said. "Where is she?" "She's been let go," the manager replied nervously. There was a pause. A long, heavy pause. The CEO stood up slowly, then he said something that no one expected. "Bring her back." The manager blinked. "Sir?" "Now." Within minutes, Sarah was called back. She walked in hesitantly, unsure of what was happening. Her eyes moved from the manager to the CEO, confusion written all over her face. The CEO stepped forward. He looked at her, not as a boss looks at an employee, but as a human being looks at another human being. "You stayed," he said. Sarah nodded slightly. "She needed help." The CEO smiled faintly. "That's my daughter." The room froze. Sarah's eyes widened. "I was watching from upstairs," he continued. "I saw everything. While everyone else walked away, you stayed." He took a step closer. "You didn't know who she was. You didn't have to help. But you did." Sarah didn't know what to say. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I just did what felt right." The CEO nodded. Then he turned to the manager. "She's not fired," he said firmly. "In fact," he paused, "she's getting promoted." Gasps filled the room again. "And you," he added, looking directly at the manager, "need to learn the difference between discipline and humanity." The manager lowered his head, speechless. The CEO turned back to Sarah. "Would you be willing to work directly with me?" he asked. Sarah blinked. "Sir. I don't understand." "I need people I can trust," he said. "People who act with integrity, even when no one is watching." He glanced at his daughter, who was now calmly holding Sarah's scarf, and clearly, he added, "You already have her trust." Tears filled Sarah's eyes. She nodded slowly. "Yes. I would." From that day on, everything changed. Sarah's life took a turn she never expected. But more importantly, the company changed too. Policies were rewritten. Training programs were introduced. Awareness about autism and empathy became part of the culture, and it all started with one moment. One choice. One act of kindness, because sometimes, the smallest actions carry the greatest impact, and sometimes, the people we overlook are the ones who remind us what truly matters. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Until next time, stay kind.